Have you ever felt like you're falling, like no matter what you do, nothing works and the world is against you? I'm here to tell you what feels like failure right now is actually the edge of your breakthrough. Every setback, every rejection, every moment you think you've lost is life pushing you closer to your true potential. You are not failing. You are being prepared, stretched, and forged into someone unstoppable. The next step you take could change everything. Tonight, I want you to open your eyes, open your heart, and see that you are closer than you realize. You know, one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is that failure is the opposite of success. That somehow when we stumble, when we make mistakes, or when things don't go our way, it means we're broken, inadequate, or unworthy. And I want to challenge that today. Failure isn't the enemy. Failure isn't the end of the road. Failure is a signal. It's the universe's way of telling you that you are moving, that you are growing, that you are alive, and pushing yourself beyond the ordinary. Every great achievement, every breakthrough you can think of came after countless failures that no one ever celebrated. The people who succeed aren't the ones who never fell. They're the ones who learned to stand stronger each time they did. Imagine for a moment that every failure is like a seed that has to break open before it can sprout, a seed that must push through dirt, darkness, and resistance before it reaches sunlight. That seed doesn't think, oh no, I've hit dirt, I'm ruined, I'll never grow. No, it keeps pushing, breaking through layer after layer because that resistance is exactly what transforms it. And that's exactly what your so-called failures are doing for you. They are your seeds, they are your training ground, they are the pressure and friction that shape your strength, sharpen your skills, and awaken your resilience. Think about the last time you failed at something. Maybe it was a job you didn't get, a relationship that ended, a project that didn't turn out the way you wanted. I want you to notice something. In that moment, it probably felt like the end of the world, like the universe had betrayed you, like there was no way forward. But now looking back, can you see a different story? Maybe that rejection pushed you towards something better. Maybe that mistake taught you a skill or a lesson you wouldn't have learned otherwise. Maybe the struggle forced you to grow in ways you never imagined. Failure is not a verdict on your life. It's a guidepost pointing you in a direction you need to go. And here's the critical thing. The people who look at failure and shrink, who let it define them, they get stuck. They stop moving. They stop trying. They let the fear of failing again become stronger than the desire to succeed. But the people who win, the people who rise above, they see failure as information. They see it as a teacher. They see it as an opportunity to adjust, to refine, to come back stronger and smarter than before. They know that failure is not permanent unless they decide to make it so. Every time you stumble, every time you hit a wall, you are gaining something far more valuable than you realize. You are gaining clarity. You are gaining perspective. You are gaining experience. And the beauty of experience is that it compounds. Every lesson you learn today, every failure you endure adds to the foundation of the success that is coming tomorrow. You might not see it immediately. You might not feel it in the moment, but it is happening quietly, relentlessly beneath the surface you are being prepared for, the moment when everything clicks, for the moment when your breakthrough comes, and when it does, it will feel inevitable. Not because it was easy, but because you are ready. And let me tell you something else. There's a secret to transforming failure into power, and it's really simple. It's perspective. The meaning you assign to an event is more important than the event itself. Two people can face the same challenge, the same setback, the same disappointment. One sees it as defeat. One sees it as a lesson. One lets it stop them. One uses it to launch themselves forward. The difference isn't luck. It isn't talent. It's the story they choose to tell themselves about what just happened. You have that power. You get to decide what failure means. You get to decide whether it crushes you or whether it launches you. And here's the thing. Most people give up right at the moment when they're about to succeed. They hit a wall. They encounter resistance. They experience pain or disappointment, and they stop. They walk away. But I want you to imagine what would happen if, instead of walking away, you leaned into that wall. What would happen if you said, I am going to learn from this, I am going to grow from this, I am going to use this as a stepping stone? Because that's exactly what every successful person does. That's how empires are built. That's how dreams are realized. That's how lives are transformed. You see, failure is a necessary part of the process. It is the furnace that tempers your character. It is the sculptor shaping your potential. It is the fire that burns away the unnecessary, the unhelpful, the weak parts of you so that your strongest self can emerge. And when you finally recognize this, when you truly internalize that failure is not a curse but a catalyst, you will start to see your life differently. You will start to see your struggles not as evidence that you're not enough, but as proof that you're pushing, that you're daring, that you're alive. So the next time you feel like you're failing, I want you to pause and look at it through a different lens. Ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? How is this shaping me? How is this preparing me for the next level? Because the truth is, the very moment you feel like you've hit the end, the moment you think you can't go further, that is usually the exact moment you are closest to a breakthrough. That is when the universe is ready to reward you, not for avoiding failure, but for learning from it, embracing it, and using it to grow stronger than you ever imagined. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It is the prelude. It is the rehearsal. It is the preparation for the victory that is waiting for you. And once you see it this way, once you truly believe it, you will stop fearing failure. You will stop shrinking from challenges. You will start stepping into life with courage, with boldness, with unstoppable momentum. You will start to see that every stumble, every mistake, every setback is actually a sign that you are closer than you realize. And when you realize that, everything changes. You know, most people give up right before their breakthrough. I want you to really hear that. Most people quit when they're closer than they realize. They've been pushing, they've been grinding, they've been sacrificing, and suddenly, just when the path starts to clear, just when the pieces are beginning to fall into place, they throw in the towel. They stop because it's hard. They stop because it hurts. They stop because they can't see the finish line. But here's the truth. Success often lives just beyond the moment of greatest struggle. Think about the times in your life when you almost gave up. Maybe it was a goal you were working on for months, even years. Maybe it was a dream you poured your heart into. And in that final stretch, it felt impossible. Every step forward felt like 2 steps back. Every door you knocked on seemed to close in your face. And in that moment, you were faced with a choice: quit and accept the story of failure, or push through and discover what was waiting on the other side. That is the defining moment. That is the crossroads where your life changes or stays the same. And I want you to understand something deeply. The universe doesn't measure your progress by how easy the journey is. It measures it by how much you persist in the face of difficulty. It measures it by your ability to endure, to adapt, to keep showing up when others would have walked away. Every obstacle you face, every resistance, every frustration is not there to stop you. It's there to test your commitment to yourself, to your dreams, and to your potential. It's there to see if you are willing to step into the person you were meant to become. Now, let me tell you why most people give up too soon. It's because they can't see the invisible momentum building beneath the surface. They can't feel the energy of the breakthrough that is forming quietly, patiently, and relentlessly in the background. You see, growth and success are not always obvious. Sometimes the progress is invisible, and that's when faith becomes your greatest ally. Faith in yourself, faith in the process, faith that if you keep pushing, if you keep doing the work, the results will come, even if you can't see them yet. I want you to picture this. You're climbing a mountain, path is steep, the rocks are loose, the wind is strong, your legs are burning, your lungs are screaming, and every step feels heavier than the last. And you look up, and the summit seems impossibly far. Most people would stop, they would turn around. But the person who reaches the top doesn't quit. They take another step, then another, and suddenly, without even realizing it, they are standing at the summit. And all the pain, all the struggle, all the doubt becomes part of the victory, not the obstacle. And here's the key. Success often hides behind resistance. The harder it is, the closer you might be. The more impossible it feels, the nearer your breakthrough. If you feel like the universe is pushing back, it may be because it is preparing to propel you forward. But you have to stay in the game. You have to keep moving, even when you feel like you're moving in circles, because sometimes the very thing that looks like failure is actually the signpost pointing directly to success. You've got to understand that persistence isn't just about brute force. It's about strategy. It's about learning, adapting, and growing as you go. It's about taking stock of what's working and what's not, and then making the adjustments that bring you closer to your goal. It's not stubbornness. It's intelligent persistence. It's the difference between giving up and winning. It's the difference between wondering what if and celebrating I did it. And let me challenge a common belief. Progress is not always linear. It rarely is. You might take TW, 0 steps forward and 1 step back, or sometimes even feel like you're standing still, but every effort, every attempt, every small win adds to the momentum that will eventually carry you across the finish line. It's cumulative. It's compounding. You may not see it day by day, but the small actions you take today are stacking into the massive success that is waiting for you tomorrow. I want you to think about some of the most famous stories of success you know. Every single one of them includes a period of doubt, struggle, and apparent failure. Every story includes the moment when everyone else would have given up, but the person didn't. They kept going. They kept believing. They kept taking action. And the result wasn't just success. It was a transformation, not just a change in circumstance, but a change in identity. They became the kind of person who could not be stopped. And that is what happens when you refuse to quit, even when it feels impossible. And here's another truth. Your biggest breakthrough might be disguised as your biggest struggle. The exact thing that's testing you, exhausting you, making you question yourself, may actually be the door to your next level. And here's the thing. Doors only open if you keep moving toward them. They only open if you refuse to retreat. The people who succeed are the ones who embrace the discomfort, lean into the challenge, and trust that their efforts are building towards something far greater than they can yet see. So what does that mean for you? It means that the next time you feel like giving up, the next time you feel like your efforts are wasted, you have to remember this. You are closer than you realize. The breakthrough you're waiting for is probably just around the corner. The results you dream about are being formed quietly, patiently, and relentlessly by the actions you're taking right now. You just have to keep going. You just have to take one more step, one more phone call, one more attempt, one more moment of courage. That is how victories are won. Not by luck, not by talent, not by ease, but by relentless, determined action. And when you understand this, something shifts inside you. You stop seeing obstacles as reasons to quit. You start seeing them as signs you're on the right path. You stop fearing struggle and start using it as fuel. You begin to understand that your greatest successes are often born from your toughest moments. You start to recognize that quitting is the only real failure, and that the act of persistence itself is the key to unlocking everything you want. So today, I want you to make a decision. Decide that no matter how hard it gets, no matter how impossible it feels, no matter how long it takes, you are not going to give up. Decide that you will push through the struggle, embrace the discomfort, and step into the breakthrough that's waiting for you. Because the truth is, you are closer than you realize, and the moment you keep going is the moment everything changes. Most people spend their lives trapped in a mindset that keeps them small, stuck, and frustrated. They see the world through the lens of scarcity, as if there's never enough, as if they're always lacking something. And when you live that way, everything you do is filtered through fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. But I want to challenge you today to step out of that mindset. I want to challenge you to see the possibilities that are already around you, waiting for you to claim them. Because the truth is, the only thing holding you back from the life you want is the way you think about it. Think about it for a moment. Two people can face the same circumstances, the same challenges, the same setbacks. One walks away defeated, convinced that life is unfair. The opportunity is scarce. That success is for other people. The other walks forward with curiosity, determination, and a belief that there is always a way, always a solution, always a path to growth. And which one do you think succeeds? It's not luck. It's not talent. It's not timing. It's mindset. How you see your situation, how you interpret your experiences, and how you choose to respond determines the trajectory of your life. A scarcity mindset keeps you focused on what you don't have. It keeps you anxious, frustrated, and ultimately powerless. You're constantly looking at the obstacles, the limitations, the I can't, and the not enough. But when you shift to a mindset of possibility, everything changes. You start seeing opportunities where others see problems. You start seeing solutions where others see dead ends. You start believing that no matter how tough it gets, you can find a way to move forward. Possibility thinking doesn't ignore reality. It simply refuses to be defeated by it. It empowers you to act, to take risks, to create. And here's the thing. Most people don't fail because they lack talent, skills, or intelligence. They fail because they lack belief in themselves, belief in the process, belief in the possibilities that exist just beyond their fear. And belief is not something that magically appears. It's something you cultivate, something you feed, something you strengthen every day through action, focus, and courage. When you start choosing belief over doubt, curiosity over fear, possibility over limitation, you unlock a power inside you that can move mountains. I want you to imagine for a moment that your mind is like a garden. Every thought you think is a seed. If you plant seeds of fear, limitation, and scarcity, you grow weeds. Your energy is consumed, your actions are constrained, and your results reflect that lack. But if you plant seeds of possibility, growth, and abundance, your garden flourishes. Your energy multiplies. Your actions become bold, creative, and unstoppable. And the beauty is that the seeds you plant today don't just grow overnight. They compound over time. Every positive thought, every small act of courage, every choice to believe in what could be builds momentum toward the life you're capable of creating. And let's be real. Shifting your mindset isn't easy. You've been conditioned often for years to doubt yourself, to see limits, to accept the "this is as good as it gets" story. But that story isn't true. It's not a fact. It's a belief. And beliefs can be changed. You can replace doubt with confidence, fear with curiosity, limitation with possibility. You can teach yourself to see challenges not as walls, but as doors. You can train yourself to see opportunities not as luck, but as evidence that the world is abundant and ready to respond to your action. One of the most powerful ways to shift your mindset is to focus on what you can control. You cannot control every situation, every person, every outcome, but you can control how you respond. You can control the story you tell yourself. You can control the energy, focus, and effort you bring to each moment. And when you choose to act from possibility instead of scarcity, you step into your power. You stop being a victim of circumstance and start being the architect of your destiny. I want you to think about what happens when you operate from a place of scarcity versus possibility. Scarcity narrows your vision. Scarcity paralyzes you with fear. Scarcity convinces you to settle for less than you're capable of. But possibility expands your vision. Possibility fuels action. Possibility inspires creativity, resilience, and courage. When you believe in what's possible, you see paths where others see walls, solutions where others see problem, and opportunities where others see impossibilities. And when you consistently act on those possibilities, life starts to open doors you didn't even know existed. And here's something most people don't realize. A mindset of possibility doesn't just change your results. It changes who you become. You become more confident, more resourceful, more courageous. You become the kind of person who doesn't just dream, but takes bold action to bring those dreams to life. You become someone who doesn't wait for permission, luck, or ideal conditions. You become someone who creates conditions, generates opportunity, and moves with unstoppable momentum towards your goals. The shift to possibility thinking also requires that you embrace risk and uncertainty, because possibilities aren't always guaranteed, and the path to growth is rarely comfortable. But here's the secret: uncertainty is not your enemy. It's the fuel for innovation, courage, and expansion. The moment you start seeing uncertainty as opportunity instead of threat, you step into a power you didn't know you had. You stop shrinking in fear, and you start stretching, learning, and creating at levels you never imagined possible. And let me remind you, possibility thinking is not about ignoring reality or pretending that challenges don't exist. It's about refusing to be defined by them. It's about facing reality with courage, awareness, and creativity. It's about asking yourself, what can I do right now with what I have to move closer to the life I want? It's about taking action every day, even if the results are not immediate, trusting that momentum builds and doors will open when persistence meets preparation. You see the difference between someone who struggles endlessly and someone who achieves extraordinary success is often nothing more than their mindset. One person sees limits, fears, and obstacles, and it becomes their life. Another person sees possibilities, lessons, and opportunities, and it becomes theirs. And the best part is, the second person isn't luckier or more talented. They simply chose to see the world differently, to believe differently, and to act differently. That is the power you have inside you. That is the power that can change your life. So today, I want you to make a conscious decision. Decide that you will no longer let scarcity control your thoughts, your choices, or your destiny. Decide that you will embrace possibility in every area of your life. Decide that even when it feels hard, even when fear whispers in your ear, you will focus on what can be done, what can be learned, what can be achieved. Because the moment you step fully into a mindset of possibility, the path forward becomes clearer, the obstacles become smaller, and the life you've been dreaming about starts to feel not just possible, but inevitable. And when you truly embrace that, you will realize that the world is not limited, that opportunity is everywhere, and that your potential is far greater than you ever imagined. Persistence and consistency are the secret ingredients that separate those who dream from those who actually achieve. You see, talent alone is not enough. Opportunity alone is not enough. Inspiration alone is not enough. What determines whether you succeed or fail is whether you show up day after day, whether you keep moving forward, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it feels like the results are never coming. Consistency compounds. Persistence multiplies. And yet most people give up long before they see the fruit of their labor. They quit too soon. They stop trying. They wait for some sign, some guarantee, some perfect moment that never comes. I want you to understand something important. The path to success is rarely glamorous. It's Rarely a straight line. It's filled with repetition, with small steps, with countless moments when no one else sees the effort you're putting in. And that's exactly why persistence matters. Because the world rarely rewards brilliance that isn't backed by relentless action. The world rewards those who are willing to do the work every day, even when it feels like no one is watching. The world rewards those who refuse to quit when the path is uncertain and the journey is long. Think about anything you've achieved in your life or anyone you admire. I can almost guarantee that what set them apart was not luck. It wasn't a sudden opportunity. It was persistence. It was showing up again and again, refining, improving, learning, adapting, and moving forward, even when it would have been easier to give up. Every great accomplishment you can name is the result of countless small, consistent actions that were repeated. Day after day, month after month, year after year. That's how ordinary effort becomes extraordinary results. Consistency isn't always dramatic. It doesn't always feel powerful. It often feels mundane. It often feels like no one notices. But that's the point. It's the quiet, repeated actions that build momentum, that create skill, that compound into results far greater than you could ever imagine. The person who practices relentlessly, who improves 1% each day, who shows up even when they don't feel like it, eventually surpasses the person who is naturally talented but inconsistent. Momentum is built quietly, incrementally, and invisibly. But when it reaches its tipping point, it becomes unstoppable. Persistence also teaches resilience. Every time you fail and keep going, you're not just moving closer to your goal, you're strengthening your mind, your character, and your resolve. You're proving to yourself that you are capable of more than you thought. We're creating a track record of action, of courage, of determination that will carry you forward even when external circumstances try to hold you back. Resilience doesn't come from success. It comes from persistence in the face of failure. The more you endure, the stronger you become. The more you persist, the more unshakable your confidence grows. I want you to imagine a time when you faced a major obstacle. Maybe it was a career challenge, a personal setback, or a situation that seemed impossible to overcome. At that moment, you had a choice. You could quit. You could give up. You could settle for less than you wanted. Or you could persist. You could keep showing up. You could take one more step. And here's the thing. Often, it's that one extra step that makes all the difference. It's that extra phone call, that extra hour of work, that extra ounce of effort that pushes you past the point where everyone else stops, and suddenly you're ahead of the pack. That's how champions are made. That's how dreams are realized. That's how ordinary people accomplish extraordinary things. And persistence is not just about pushing harder. It's also about pushing smarter. It's about learning from your mistakes, adjusting your approach, and refining your strategy. It's about being relentless in pursuit of your goals, but also flexible in your methods. You keep going, yes, but you also keep learning. You keep improving. You keep evolving. That's the combination that produces results. Relentless action guided by continuous improvement. It's the difference between spinning your wheels and moving forward with unstoppable momentum. Most people underestimate the power of small, consistent actions. They think they need a massive breakthrough, a dramatic change, or a perfect plan to succeed. But the truth is, success is often built one tiny step at a time, one small habit, one repeated one consistent effort after another. Over time, those small actions compound into something incredible. That's how mountains are climbed, businesses are built, relationships are strengthened, and dreams are realized. Small efforts, repeated consistently, create exponential results. And let me remind you, persistence isn't always easy. It's uncomfortable, it's inconvenient, it's sometimes lonely. There will be moments when nothing seems to be working, when progress feels invisible, when doubt creeps in. That's exactly when persistence matters most. That's when the people who are willing to push through, to keep taking action despite the uncertainty, set themselves apart from everyone else. It's the willingness to endure, to persist when no one else is, that creates the gap between ordinary and extraordinary. I want you to picture your life as a river. You have a destination in mind, but the current is strong, the obstacles are many, and the path is not straight. Most people give up when the water gets rough. They step out convinced they'll never reach the end, but the persistent person keeps paddling. They adjust their strokes, they navigate around rocks, they keep moving forward one paddle at a time, and eventually that river delivers them to their destination. That's the power of persistence. That's the power of consistency. That's the power of never giving up. And here's another truth. Persistence creates confidence. Every time you follow through, every time you refuse to quit, every time you prove to yourself that you can endure, your belief in yourself grows. You start to see yourself as someone who doesn't give up, someone who takes responsibility, someone who faces challenges head on. And that confidence becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more you persist, the more you believe, the more capable you become, and the more unstoppable you are in pursuit of your goals. So what does this mean for you today? It means that no matter how hard it feels, no matter how many obstacles stand in your way, no matter how long the journey seems, you must keep going, you must keep showing up, you must take the next step and the next and the next. Because persistence is the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. Consistency is the engine that drives that bridge forward. And the moment you embrace both, the life you've been striving for stops being a dream and starts being your reality. Remember, there are no shortcuts to lasting success. There are no guarantees, no magical formulas, no instant results. But there is a path paved with consistent effort, relentless action, and unwavering persistence. And the people who walk that path day after day, step by step, eventually arrive at the life they imagined, often surpassing even their own expectations. And when you understand this truth, something shifts inside you. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for luck. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You step into your power, you take responsibility, and you keep moving forward no matter what. And in that moment, nothing can stop you. Most people look at mistakes, failures, and setbacks as something to avoid, something to fear, something to regret. They see a wrong move, a missed opportunity, or a bad outcome and immediately judge themselves harshly. I'm not good enough, they tell themselves. I'll never get it right. But here's the truth. Mistakes are not proof of weakness. They are proof of life, proof of effort, proof of courage. Every mistake you make is an opportunity to learn, to adjust, and to grow. Every misstep is a message, a piece of information the universe is giving you, guiding you toward the path that actually works. Think about it for a moment. Every invention, every innovation, every breakthrough in history was built on mistakes. Every great leader, every successful entrepreneur, every world-class performer has a track record filled with what looked like failures at the time. The difference between them and those who give up is that they saw mistakes as feedback, not as failure. They looked at what went wrong and asked, what can I learn from this? How can I improve? How can I use this to get closer to my goal? That's the mindset that transforms setbacks into success. And let me tell you something else. Life has a way of teaching you exactly what you need to learn if you're willing to pay attention. Every challenge, every disappointment, every rejection carries with it a lesson. Sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes it takes months or years to fully understand. But if you ignore it, if you refuse to learn, then you remain stuck. You keep repeating the same patterns, making the same mistakes, and wondering why things don't change. But if you listen, if you reflect, if you apply what you've learned, you start to move forward faster, smarter, and stronger than you ever could have imagined. I want you to imagine that life is like a teacher, and every mistake is an assignment. The grade you receive is not a judgment on your worth. It's feedback on your approach, your strategy, your preparation. You can ignore the assignment and fail again, or you can study the lesson, make corrections, and improve. The more you embrace this process, the more unstoppable you become, because every piece of feedback you receive, every lesson you apply, compounds over time into mastery, into skill, into confidence. And here's something most people don't realize. Failure and feedback are not optional. If you want to achieve anything meaningful, you will encounter them. You will make mistakes. You will face rejection. You will stumble. The question is not whether it will happen, it's whether you will use it. Will you shrink back or will you rise? Will you take it personally or will you take it as information? Will you quit or will you get smarter, stronger, and more prepared for the next challenge? Feedback has power because it gives you clarity. Without it, you are moving in the dark, hoping your choices will lead to the right outcome. With it, you have a guide. You know what works and what doesn't. You know where to adjust and where to push harder. You know the areas that need improvement and the areas that are already strong. That clarity allows you to take focused, effective action instead of spinning your wheels, wasting energy, and repeating the same mistakes over and over again. I want you to think about your own life. How often have you experienced a setback and immediately tried to avoid thinking about it, brushing it off as bad luck, or blaming someone else? How often have you missed the opportunity to learn from it, to extract a lesson, to grow from the experience? That's the difference between staying stuck and moving forward. The people who thrive are the ones who reflect, analyze, and apply. They don't let their mistakes define them. They let their mistakes teach them. And here's the beauty of feedback. It works whether it comes from life, from people, or from yourself. Sometimes life gives it in the form of consequences, obstacles, or failed attempts. Sometimes it comes as advice, coaching, or criticism from someone else. And sometimes it comes from your own reflection, your own awareness, and your own willingness to look honestly at your results. All of it is valuable if you're willing to use it. The moment you stop seeing feedback as an attack and start seeing it as a tool, you unlock a level of growth and progress that most people never experience. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're working toward a goal and something doesn't go as planned. Most people will see it as a signal to quit. But if you stop and ask, what can this teach me? What adjustments do I need to make? How can I use this to come back stronger? Suddenly that obstacle transforms from a barrier into a bridge. Suddenly that mistake becomes a stepping stone. Suddenly that failure becomes fuel. And that is the mindset of every person who has achieved extraordinary results. They see life not as a series of random setbacks, but as a carefully orchestrated teacher, guiding them toward growth, resilience, and eventual success. I want you to understand that the lessons you gain from feedback are far more valuable than immediate success. Success without lessons is fragile. It can be lost as easily as it was gained. But when you learn, when you adapt, when you apply, you build skills, knowledge, and resilience that can never be taken away. Every time you fall, every time you fail, every time life challenges you, you are building a foundation that will carry you through even greater challenges in the future. And here's the most powerful part. Using feedback effectively requires humility and courage. Humility to admit that you don't have all the answers, and courage to face the truth about where you need to improve. It's not easy to be honest with yourself. It's not easy to accept criticism or see your mistakes clearly. But the moment you do, you open the door to growth, to improvement, and to success. And the more consistently you practice this, the stronger, smarter, and more unstoppable you become. Life will give you countless opportunities to practice this skill. Some will be small, almost trivial, and others will shake you to your core. But if you train yourself to see every challenge as a lesson, to extract the feedback and to apply it, you will start to move. Be faster, make better decisions, and achieve more than you ever thought possible. Feedback becomes a superpower. Mistakes become allies. Challenges become teachers. And suddenly failure no longer feels like an enemy. It feels like a guide pointing you toward what you need to do next. So today I want you to make a choice. Decide that you will stop fearing mistakes. Decide that you will stop avoiding feedback. Decide that you will stop letting setbacks define you. Instead, embrace them, study them, learn from them, apply what you learn, and let every experience, every challenge, every failure, and every piece of feedback move you closer to your goals, move you closer to your purpose, move you closer to the life you were meant to live. Because the truth is, the moment you learn to see life this way, the moment you start treating every mistake as a lesson and every setback as a guide, you realize something incredible. Nothing can stop you. Fear is one of the most powerful forces in human life, and yet it is also one of the most misunderstood. Most people believe that courage is the absence of fear, but that's not true. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's acting in spite of it. It's moving forward when your heart is pounding, when your mind is screaming stop, when every part of you wants to retreat to safety. And here's the secret. The moment you feel fear is often the exact moment you are stepping into growth, into opportunity, into transformation. Fear is a signal, not a stop sign. Fear is a compass pointing toward the places you need to go to become the person you were meant to be. Think about the times in your life when you felt fear. Maybe it was speaking up, taking a risk, starting something new, or standing for yourself when everyone else doubted you. In that moment, you may have thought, I can't do this. This is too risky. I'm not ready. But here's the truth. That fear is actually proof that you are stretching beyond your comfort zone. It is proof that you are confronting something meaningful. It is proof that you are alive, growing, and capable of more than you think. Every time you feel fear, it's a signal that you're about to enter the arena of your greatest potential. And let me tell you something most people don't realize. Fear is energy. It's raw, powerful energy. It can either paralyze you, keep you small, and prevent you from acting, or it can fuel you, ignite you, and push you to levels you never imagined. The difference is in how you respond. Do you shrink, or do you harness it? Do you let it control you, or do you use it as a springboard every time you choose action over avoidance? Every time you step forward despite fear, you transform that energy into power, momentum, and growth. I want you to imagine fear as a doorway. On one side is the familiar, the comfortable, the safe. On the other side is everything you desire: success, freedom, confidence, fulfillment. Most people never step through that door because fear tells them it's too dangerous, too risky, too uncertain. But the people who achieve extraordinary results are the ones who learn to walk through that door despite the fear. They understand that fear is not a barrier. It's an indicator that they are on the path to something meaningful. And here's the thing, fear doesn't go away by ignoring it. Fear doesn't disappear just because you wish it would. Fear is a part of the process. It's part of growth, part of transformation, part of becoming the person you were meant to be. The people who succeed are not fearless. They are courageous. They feel fear, acknowledge it, and act anyway. They understand that the discomfort of fear is temporary, but the growth, the results, and the transformation it brings are lasting. Let me share a secret that See, people never realize the very things that scare you the most are often the things that have the most potential to change your life. The risk you hesitate to take, the opportunity you're afraid to pursue, the conversation you avoid, these are usually moments where the biggest breakthroughs happen. Fear is a signal that you are on the edge of growth. It's the universe's way of saying, step forward. This is where your next level begins. But you have to be willing to move through it. You have to be willing to act despite the discomfort. And here's another truth. The people who master fear don't do it by eliminating it. They do it by changing their relationship with it. They don't try to stop feeling afraid. They learn to use fear as fuel. They convert the adrenaline, the uncertainty, and the tension into focus, determination, and action. Every time you act in the presence of fear, you prove to yourself that you are capable, resilient, and powerful. You start building confidence, not because fear disappears, but because you realize that it doesn't have to control you. You can control it. I want you to think about the times when fear held you back. How many opportunities did you miss? How many doors did you leave unopened? How many moments of growth did you forfeit? Now imagine what would happen if instead of letting fear stop you, you leaned into it. What if you recognized that the fear was a sign that you were on the right path, that you were about to stretch, that you were about to grow? What if you saw fear as a guide instead of a threat? That shift alone would change the trajectory of your life. And here's the most important part. Fear is temporary, but the rewards on the other side are lasting. When you act despite fear, you gain experience, confidence, and proof that you are capable. Every time you step forward, you build a track record of courage. Despite fear compounds into momentum, resilience, and self-belief. Over time, you become unstoppable. Not because you no longer feel fear, but because you have trained yourself to act in spite of it. The reality is that fear is inevitable. It will always be there when you are reaching for something meaningful. It will always appear when you are stepping into growth. The difference between those who succeed and those who do not is not the absence of fear, it's the willingness to act through it. Courage is a decision, a daily practice, a choice to show up, even when the voice inside tells you to run, hide, or wait. And every time you make that choice, you step closer to your potential, closer to your goals, and closer to the life you are meant to live. I want you to imagine fear as a muscle. The more you practice acting in spite of it, the stronger you become. The first few times it feels unbearable. Your heart races, your mind screams. But each time you face it, each time you step forward, it gets easier. Not because fear disappears, but because you become stronger. You develop the capacity to handle discomfort, to embrace challenge, and to move forward with courage and confidence. That is how growth happens. That is how transformation happens. And here's the final truth. Your dreams, your goals, your destiny, they are always on the other side of fear. The life you want is waiting for you, but it is always one step past the discomfort, one action beyond the hesitation, one decision to act despite the doubt. Fear is a signal that you are on the right track. Fear is a reminder that you are alive, stretching, and growing. And the moment you start seeing fear this way, the moment you begin to use it as fuel instead of letting it paralyze you, nothing can stop you. So today, I want you to make a choice. Decide that you will no longer let fear dictate your actions. Decide that you will no longer shrink from discomfort. Decide that every time fear shows up, you will step forward anyway. You will take action. You will move. You will grow. Because the truth is, the very thing you are afraid of is often the thing that will change your life. And when you start living this way, when you start using fear as fuel instead of letting it hold you back, you begin to realize something incredible. The person you were afraid to become is already inside you, waiting for you to step forward and claim them. Patience and sacrifice are two of the most misunderstood concepts in the pursuit of success. We live in a world that promises instant gratification, that convinces us that we should be able to achieve anything we want immediately without struggle, without waiting, without paying the price. And when reality doesn't match that expectation, most people give up. They quit, they settle, they trade long-term success for short-term comfort. But the truth is, nothing truly worthwhile is achieved without sacrifice, and nothing lasting is built without patience. Think about it for a moment. Every great achievement, every extraordinary life, every remarkable success story is built on a foundation of sacrifice. Sacrifice isn't just giving up something for the sake of it. It's giving up something today so you can have something greater tomorrow. It's about making choices that align with your vision, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about delaying gratification, prioritizing growth over comfort, and focusing on what really matters instead of what feels good in the moment. And patience is the companion to sacrifice. Sacrifice without patience is frustration. Patience without sacrifice is laziness, but together they are unstoppable. Patience allows you to endure the time it takes for results to manifest. Sacrifice ensures that every action you take is intentional, meaningful, and aligned with your long-term vision. When you master both, you create a life that is not dependent on luck, timing, or external validation, but on your ability to persevere, to invest, and to endure the journey. Most people give up too early because they can't see the results of their efforts immediately. They plant the seeds, water them for a week, and when nothing blooms, they dig them up and give up. But life doesn't work that way. Growth takes time. Transformation takes time. Success takes time. And the very moment you are tempted to quit, the very moment you feel like it's taking too long, may be the exact moment you are on the verge of a breakthrough. That is why patience is not passive. It is active endurance. It is persistent effort with unwavering faith that what you are investing now will pay off in the future. Sacrifice is not always easy to recognize because it often feels like loss in the moment. You give up your comfort, your free time, your social distractions, your short-term pleasures, all in pursuit of a goal that may feel far away. But each act of sacrifice compounds over time. Each choice you make to prioritize your future over your present builds the momentum and the foundation for the life you are creating. The person who is willing to sacrifice today is the person who will reap extraordinary rewards tomorrow. Patience also teaches discipline and perspective. When you practice patience, you learn to trust the process. You learn that setbacks are temporary. Challenges are part of the journey, and that progress is often invisible until the tipping point arrives. You learn to focus on what you can control, the effort, the choices, the actions, rather than obsessing over results that are not yet in your hands. Patience allows you to keep moving forward, even when the world seems indifferent to your efforts. It allows you to persevere without losing your sense of purpose or your belief in yourself. I want you to think about the moments in your life when you were impatient. How often did frustration, doubt, or the desire for instant results cause you to give up, to settle, or to make choices that undermined your long-term goals? Now imagine if, instead of giving into impatience, you had stayed the course, invested in the process, and trusted the timing of your life. Imagine the difference that would make. Patience is not waiting passively. It is investing actively in the unseen, trusting that the effort you put in now will yield results later. And let me remind you, nothing that is truly valuable comes easily. You can have temporary pleasures without effort, but you cannot have lasting success, meaningful relationships, or genuine fulfillment without sacrifice and patience. The path to greatness is rarely glamorous. It is filled with effort, setbacks, learning, discipline, and endurance. It demands that you give up some comfort today in exchange for a life that is richer, stronger, and more meaningful tomorrow. That is the price of real achievement. Sacrifice also teaches clarity. When you make deliberate choices about what you are willing to give up and what you are willing to endure, you gain a clearer vision of what truly matters. You stop chasing distractions. You stop pursuing what is trivial. You start investing in what aligns with your purpose, your goals, and your potential. Every choice to sacrifice is a choice to focus, to refine, and to direct your energy toward what truly creates value in your life. And here's the critical point. Patience and sacrifice are not separate from action. They are inseparable from it. You cannot sit back and wait for life to reward you, and you cannot sacrifice without taking consistent steps toward your vision. Patience gives you enduring. Sacrifice gives you alignment, and action gives you momentum. Together, they create unstoppable force. Every small step, every act of discipline, every deliberate choice compounds over time. And the moment you combine them, life begins to respond, opportunities start to open, and results emerge that seem almost magical to those who are impatient or unwilling to sacrifice. Most people fail not because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity, but because they lack patience. They expect instant results, immediate recognition, and fast rewards. And when life doesn't deliver on that timeline, they quit. But the truth is, success is a long game. It is measured in years, not days. It is built on countless decisions, countless small sacrifices, countless moments of perseverance that no one sees. The person who is willing to endure, who is willing to invest in the unseen, who is willing to sacrifice today for a better tomorrow, is the person who achieves what most people only dream about. Patience and sacrifice also teach resilience. When you are willing to wait, to endure, to give up what is convenient for what is meaningful, you develop a strength that cannot be shaken. You become immune to the temporary setbacks that derail most people. You learn that discomfort is temporary, that effort compounds, and that the process is more important than the immediate outcome. Resilience grows when you invest in the long term, when you prioritize what matters, and when you refuse to let temporary frustration or delay dictate your choices. And finally, patience and sacrifice teach gratitude. When you have waited, when you have invested, when you have endured, the rewards that arrive are deeply appreciated. You understand the value of what you have earned. You recognize that success is not an entitlement. It is the product of effort, endurance, and intentional choices. And that gratitude fuels the next level of growth, creating a cycle of persistence, patience, and fulfillment that propels your life forward. So today, I want you to make a commitment. Decide that you will embrace the discomfort of sacrifice. Decide that you will trust the process even when the results are not immediate. Decide that you will prioritize what truly matters, invest in your long-term vision, and endure the journey with patience and perseverance. Because the moment you do, you start building a life that is extraordinary, a life that is meaningful, and a life that reflects the best version of yourself. And when you embrace both patience and sacrifice, you realize something incredible. The life you dream of is not just possible, it is inevitable. Celebration is one of the most overlooked elements of success. Most people think that once they reach the big goal, once they achieve the milestone, once they arrive, then they will allow themselves to feel proud, to feel accomplished, to feel joy. But the truth is, if you only celebrate the destination, you miss the beauty of the journey. Real fulfillment, real transformation happens not just when you achieve your goals, but as you move toward them, as you overcome challenges, as you persist despite fear, doubt, and setbacks. Learning to celebrate your progress, no matter how small, is a critical part of staying motivated, inspired, and alive in the pursuit of greatness. I want you to think about the journey you've been on. Every early morning, every late night, every moment you pushed through discomfort, every time you acted despite fear, every small victory, it all matters. Most people ignore it. They discount it. They focus only on what they haven't done yet, on what they still need to achieve, and they feel frustrated, exhausted, or discouraged. But when you learn to recognize and celebrate the small wins along the way, something powerful happens. You build momentum. You reinforce the behaviors that are driving you forward. You cultivate confidence. You remind yourself that you are capable. Celebration isn't about arrogance or vanity. It's about acknowledgement. It's about consciously recognizing that you are making progress, that you are growing, that your efforts are producing results, even if they are not yet fully visible. When you acknowledge your progress, your mind and body respond. You produce more energy. You generate more motivation. You attract more possibilities. Celebration is a tool for reinforcement. It trains you to notice your victories and to honor your own effort, which creates a feedback loop of growth and achievement. And here's the thing. Life is a series of moments, not just milestones. If you wait for the perfect moment, the ultimate goal, the final destination to celebrate, you will miss most of your life. The process itself, the learning, the persistence, the courage, the sacrifice is where the real magic happens. When you start celebrating these moments, you shift your focus from scarcity to abundance, from frustration to fulfillment. You start seeing life not as a series of obstacles, but as a series of opportunities to grow, to learn, to enjoy, and to rise. Think about an athlete, an artist, or a leader. They don't only celebrate when they win the championship, finish the masterpiece, or close the big deal. They celebrate practice, effort, improvement, small milestones. They recognize the incremental growth, the daily dedication, the moments of perseverance that build toward greatness. That recognition fuels them. It keeps them motivated when challenges arise. It reminds them that their work is meaningful, and it teaches them to enjoy the journey, not just the destination. Celebration also deepens gratitude. When you pause to acknowledge your progress, you connect with the value of your effort. You recognize the skills you have built, the resilience you have developed, the courage you have exercised. You begin to appreciate the process, the lessons, the people who have supported you, and the opportunities that have come your way. Gratitude transforms your perspective. It turns struggle into triumph, obstacles into opportunities, and setbacks into lessons. And when you cultivate this mindset consistently, you create a life of fulfillment, not just achievement. And let me remind you, celebration is not only personal, it's also contagious. When you share your victories, your growth, and your gratitude with others, you inspire them to do the same. You create a ripple effect of motivation, encouragement, and empowerment. You demonstrate that progress matters, that effort is worth honoring, and that every step forward counts. Celebrating together strengthens community, connection, and purpose. And it reinforces the idea that success is not just about personal achievement, but about contributing, inspiring, and lifting others along the way. I want you to imagine a life where you celebrate more often. Every small win, every step forward, every act of courage, every moment of persistence, it all matters. When you start celebrating, you shift your energy. You focus on what is working, what is growing, what is evolving. You stop dwelling on what is missing or what hasn't happened. Pinned yet, you generate confidence. You cultivate momentum. You amplify your results. Celebration is not a luxury. It is a strategic tool for success. And here's another key point. Celebration fuels resilience. When you face inevitable setbacks, failures, and obstacles, and you will, the memory of your victories, the recognition of your progress, the joy of your achievements becomes a source of strength. It reminds you of what you are capable of. It reminds you that you have overcome challenges before and that you can do it again. It gives you the energy to keep going, to keep pushing, and to keep believing in yourself, even when the path is difficult. Celebration also nurtures identity. Every time you acknowledge your growth, you reinforce the version of yourself that persists, that acts despite fear, that learns from mistakes, that sacrifices for the long term, that embraces patience. You are telling yourself, I am someone who shows up. I am someone who grows. I am someone who succeeds. That identity becomes self-reinforcing. It shapes your decisions, your behavior, and your outcomes. It creates a version of you that is unstoppable, confident, and resilient. And here's the beauty, you don't need to wait for monumental achievements to celebrate. You can celebrate effort, courage, resilience, learning, progress, and growth. You can celebrate showing up when it was easier to quit. You can celebrate small wins that no one else sees but you. You can celebrate the lessons learned from mistakes, the strength built through adversity, and the momentum created by consistency. When you celebrate these moments, you cultivate a life of joy, fulfillment, and purpose along the way, not just at the end. So today, I want you to make a commitment. Decide that you will celebrate your journey, not just your destination. Decide that you will recognize and honor your progress, your effort, your courage, and your growth. Decide that every small victory matters. Every lesson learned matters. Every step forward matters. Because when you do, you create a life that is not only successful, but also deeply meaningful, joyful, and inspiring. And when you embrace the practice of celebrating your progress, you realize something profound. Success is not just a destination. It is a way of living. It is the way you show up, the way you persist, the way you grow, the way you learn, and the way you honor every step of your journey.